And here we go with the second part of our complex number operations, talking about multiplying complex numbers. So we're basically either using the distributive property or FOILing. Just remember, exponents do change when we multiply, and we have to make sure that we check I squared. Remember from the last part of our notes here, I squared is equal to -1. All answers when we're done should be in standard form, and remember that's A plus or minus BI. So basically, the I should come last. So let's try some. I'm going to start with example A. We have 3 times -2 is -6. 3 times 5i is 15i. 2i times -2 is -4i. And 2i times 5i. 2 times 5 is 10. I times I is I squared. So there I see that I squared, which means the end of this is really 10 times -1, which is -10. That makes our like terms the -6 and the -10, which is -16. And then 15i minus 4i is positive 11i. I know that this is in standard form because I is at the very end. Example B. -1 times -3 is positive 1. -1 times -7i is positive 7i. 2i times -3 is -6i. And 2i times -7i. So 2 times -7 is -14. And I times I is I squared. Again, we have that I squared there, so that's really -14 times -1, which is positive 14. Our like terms then are going to be 1 plus 14, which is 15, and then positive 7i minus 6i is 1i. And remember, we can write it as just plus I or plus 1i. They both mean the same thing. Example C. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times -i is -8i. -3i times 2 is -6i. And -3i times -i. So we have -3 times -1 is positive 3. I times I is I squared. So there's our I squared, which makes the end here really 3 times -1, which is -3. So our like terms are going to be 16 minus 3, which is 13, and then -8i minus 6i is -14i. Letter D. We're just distributing the -4i times 6, which is -24i. -4i times 7i. -4 times 7 is -28. I times I is I squared. Again, we have our I squared here, so it's -28 times -1, which is positive 28. And then to put this in standard form, the 28 and the 24i have to trade places. I always comes last. So it's positive 28 minus 24i. Last but not least, letter E. We've talked about this a few times in class where we cannot distribute the square to the 5 and the 2i and call it good. That square means we have 5 minus 2i written down twice. So 5 minus 2i times 5 minus 2i. Now we can go ahead about our multiplying. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times negative 2i is negative 10i. Negative 2i times 5 is negative 10i. And negative 2i times negative 2i is positive 4i squared. So our I squared is negative 1, and 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. 25 minus 4 is 21. Negative 10i and negative 10i is negative 20i. Here's your summary for today. Go ahead and answer these questions. Have them ready to go for class tomorrow, and we'll pick up where this leaves off. Thanks, everyone.